and I'm really excited to be here today. We're talking about a topic that really is core to a lot of success around AIOps and observability. I always talk about how the root of everything that we do is so foundational, and that's so much around the data. How good the data is, whether it's available, whether it's not available. So so today we're going to kind of look at it from three different perspectives. Around digital transformation. What are the challenges? What are the sort of the hurdles that certain organizations have to get over? What are the foundations? Like any building, like any structure, we know that if it's not built on a solid foundation, it's just not going to last long. So your investments are going to be quickly turned over. You're not going to get the value out of those investments that you truly need. And lastly, modernization. So obviously a lot of organizations, especially the large global organizations, they've been around for decades. They have technologies in place that have been very profitable for them, have been very successful for them. However, with a lot of the newer technologies that have really come on the scene over the last 5-10 years, there is a need to modernize that. There's certain things that you're limited when you don't have the latest and greatest technologies in place, whether it's to run your business or whether it's to monitor it and the performance and that sort of thing. So let's look first at challenges. And some of these metrics I'm going to be calling out and speaking to today are from the commission study that we did. And in this particular case, we're looking at executing digital transformation. Some of the challenges, the top 5 challenges there. And some of them are a bit of a surprise. Some of them really aren't. When any of us that have been around for a while, we know some of these challenges just keep resurfacing, and it's a constant battle to try to move forward and address some of these challenges. And it's just, again, it's a frustrating thing to see that, lack of technology skills and knowledge. That was the top one, right? To think of how long we've been trying to get through digital transformation, and for that to still be one of the issues, you kind of have to start asking yourself, is it a chicken or is it the egg? What is actually kind of going on here? Secondly, security. Not all that surprising, but again, a little bit depressing that it is still so high. But I mean, we know what's going on in our world and how we have so many people, so many bad actors out there trying to do harm to our organizations. And then we move into the operational stuff. This is classic. You talk to anyone that's been in technology, anyone that's been running businesses, frankly, not even outside of technology. Organizational silos, constantly an issue, conflicting priorities, the ability for the employees to devote the time to this initiative, in this particular case, digital transformation. But we've seen this constantly year over year as one of the big issues. Just let me get the job done. Let me get done what you're asking me to do without all of these other issues around. I need the time to actually succeed on this. And last but not least, people. And that's a cultural thing, right? It's not cultural in terms of geographic, but we are humans and we tend to resist a lot of change. And, because change is difficult a lot of times, and we don't know, what's the uncertainty of this change? Will it cost me my job? Will it have other implications downstream? So there's always this resistance to change because of the unknown. And we were just talking about security. This is some other data points that we had from our security survey last year. And I mean, these are massive numbers. Security decision makers, just not trusting some of the analytics, not trusting AI and the ML in the security tools. These are massive numbers that we have to figure out to overcome, because we're not going to get through that digital transformation if we don't figure out how to build up the trust, build up the confidence in our systems, in the AI in particular. And trust is a complicated thing. This research that my colleague Brandon Purcell did a couple of years ago, still totally relevant. When you look at all the different dynamics of trust, can I trust it? Is it accountable? And this is whether it's technology, people, whatever, right? Is it competent? Is Does that system have the expertise? Did the people that built that system have the expertise to enable it successfully, to make it happen efficiently? The consistency, the dependability, the empathy, the perception that, is it going to do it the right way? Is it going to be fair, to the customers? Is it going to do it in in an empathetic way? And one of the big pieces here too is the transparency. We always, especially when something goes wrong, we want to understand what happened and why. That will help us maintain trust or totally destroy it, right? If we don't see, if it's not explainable, we're going to have a bigger issue to get over, a bigger hurdle to get over on from a trust perspective. This metric I just found fascinating. I was looking through some research a few weeks back, and I was pretty shocked. And anytime you see those 90-something numbers or single-digit numbers, I was shocked to see that this is self-diagnosis, self-awareness, right? That these data and analytics decision makers, and these are senior level folks, only 3% felt that they were advanced, that their organization had advanced insights, that they could drive business with those insights. 62% beginners. Again, massive numbers. Intermediate, 34%. So to think that even with all of our human egos and our own self-worth, to think that only 3% felt that they were advanced level in insights-driven business is pretty scary. But it also tells us that we have massive opportunities to change how we do business, to change these organizations, to improve these organizations, where they're going, how they're going. So again, it's kind of a double-edged sword there. I think there's massive opportunity to get so many organizations, if we can just educate them, provide them a little bit more insight into what to do, how to do it, how to put guardrails in place around it so that they can actually get at least into the intermediate stage. Because again, 3% is just unbelievable. So, when you look at these other investments, obviously with such a low number in a advanced state, organizations that see them as advanced, you would expect this, right? You would expect to see massive investments, large scale investments, 73%, 75% in cross-functional insight teams, which is great. So you see that they're going to do this. They're moving forward with these initiatives. And what I really love about this is they're architecting the systems. This isn't just, hey, I'm going to throw something in there, because that's, again, short-lived. It's a near-term addressing of the issue. When you re-architect something, when you say, hey, I'm going to consciously look at this from an architectural perspective, I'm going to look at this and say, I want to put a system in place. I want to put a platform in place. I want to put a whole environment in place that's going to give me these insights. You can be fairly confident that it's going to be longer lived, that they're going to say, all right, we're going to do this the right way the first time. And this is something that's going to last us, without any major developments, 3-5 years, maybe, towards 10, probably between 5 and 10, there'll be some adjustments and stuff. But again, it shouldn't be foundationally changing. It's, more adjustments to different market trends and that sort of thing, new technologies coming out. But again, 73 and 75%, in terms of organizations that are putting investments directly into building insights, digital, and assisting in their digital transformation journey. So, I kind of talked a lot about the data pieces, the data points that we pulled out, but let's kind of back up a little bit and look at some of the foundations of AIOps and observability. I always use this, if anyone has seen my previous presentations, I always use this example because it takes us out of the technology realm, and it helps explain the differences between monitoring, observability, and AIOps. And when you think of monitoring, it's basically when you take your pet into a veterinarian, very reactive. The pet's already injured himself, or they're not feeling well, and the veterinarian is just kind of looking at what they look at and say, okay, let's try this, let's try that. But it's, again, very external, very reactive. When you get into observability, that's when you go to the doctor and you explain to the doctor, I feel this way. This happened. This has happened before. This is how I treated it. And the doctor's having an active engagement with you and an active discussion with you. And they're exploring, they're trying to figure out, how did this come about and what can they do to address you as an entity, and then looking outwards slightly, but really the super focus is on you. And there's a little bit of proactive efforts there. Hey, maybe let's try not doing this again. Let's try not doing that. So a little proactive aspect to maybe prevent a little bit. When we get into AIOps, it goes to that next level. So it still has the reactive, it has the active, the proactive, it has all those things still, as you can see here. But think about it in terms of sort of a glucose pump or a sophisticated prosthetic. It's part of a larger system. So a glucose pump, for example, is going to see that the sugar levels are dropping in your body, you're diabetic, and it's going to give you the insulin that you need. But it also is recognizing that this is coming from the kidneys or the liver. So it's a larger thing. So AIOps kind of looks across the ecosystem at large, addresses the more immediate issue, but it also recognizes that, hey, this is rooted somewhere else. And this may be having implications everywhere else. So it can also, like I said, because of this, again, in the case of this glucose pump, it's predictive. It sees your sugar levels starting to drop. So before you have an incident, a diabetic incident, it's going to give you that insulin to kind of get you over that hump. So a couple of definitions. When you look at a couple of key terms here that I've highlighted in AIOps and what is AIOps, a couple of really important pieces. Human and technological application of AI/ML. This isn't just a technology thing. It's not just a person thing. It's really the combination, leveraging these new technologies to advance things. Speaking of advancements, enhancing human judgment. So taking all of that data that we have, all those trends, all those patterns, leveraging those and bringing those to light to that support person or that engineer or whoever, say, hey, we've seen this before. Here's what we've done before. Here's how we've handled it. Here's been the successes. Here's been the failures. And basically bringing that to light and helping us make those decisions that much faster. It obviously enables automation. So in those cases where, like, we've seen this 20 times, we see it 20 times a day, it'll bring that to light, and we can now say, hey, let's go orchestrate a solution to this. Let's put some auto remediation in place, or let's just automate parts of it that we're comfortable with and bring it to the individual that will be able to address this, in a much faster and more efficient manner. And obviously, AI enriched actionable information. It's pulling all of those volumes of data together. It's putting all that into context for you. And really a lot of this is coming back to the human judgment. Like I said, I mentioned that a couple of times now. But when you think of all the work that we do, it has to be business outcomes focused. It has to be from the user perspective, from the customer perspective, because we can fix systems. And if there's no one on the system, who really cares, right? So what we want to do is make sure that we're prioritizing, we're putting the things that are most urgent in place. And those most urgent things are, and the higher priority things are, those that are impacting business. Not, when you think of some of our old infrastructure type things with server groups and network structures and stuff, we had a lot of redundancy in place. So if 1 of 10 servers went down, is that really a big issue? It may be if it's our peak time, and it may have no implication on business at all. So again, when we get back to the concepts and the thinking of the digital transformation, we have to use that. We have to leverage all of that stuff and move forward with what's the most important thing for my limited resources to get done in the best interest of our business, in the best interest of our customers and our users. So when you look at the reference architecture, the key here, I mentioned it early in the presentation, that it is about the data. It is, all of that underpinning information and the context that really is the data that goes into making all of our decisions and our digital transformation. It's key. Observability. What we're looking at here is the inherent ability to see what's going on in the system. It comes from control theories, and it's really like how can I tell what's going on inside based on what I see from the outside? And that all fits in with the AIOps structure. It fits in with our objectives to do the digital transformation, because again, the amount of data, the amount of telemetry that's being generated every second, every millisecond is just crazy. We can't handle this on a manual basis the way we've always done things. There is real-time streaming data that is just flying past us every second, and we're just not humanly equipped to handle this without some of these technologies. Pulling that in, seeing those patterns develop while they're developing is key, and then being able to act on them. So when you bring those all together, you think about, the scope of insight. I have that down at the bottom. So our old school way, the monitoring, we still need that, right? We need all the details at the entity and the device level, but it doesn't really give us any sense of what's going on from a business perspective. Observability kind of picks up from there, takes all that data and says, hey, at the business application level, at the business system level, here's what's going on, and we drill down deep into that to get the deep insights, targeting those applications, understanding those interactions, with the other systems. And then AIOps pulls all of that in and also adds, like I said, the ecosystem to it. It's looking across the systems. It's seeing patterns develop in multiple systems and saying, hey, we can get ahead of this because this is a bigger issue. This is a more challenging issue that we're seeing in 5 different groups, not just one group. Maybe there's a commonality here. They're all sharing a microservice, or they're all connected to the same landline from EMEA, or whatever that is. So that's where AIOps really adds that whole next level of sophistication to what we're doing. So, again, back to that the commission study that we did. When you look at some of the top priorities, around technology architecture and delivery, you start seeing this pattern here. You see this trend here, right? And it is about modernization. So 68% modern application development techniques. Again, the only way you get there is if you are developing in a more modern way, a more technologically advanced way. High performance IT. An organization has to be structured and has to be thinking in that manner in order to lead high performance architecture. It has to be leveraging the new computing architectures and technology. So all of this sort of thing, the automation is key. I mean, there's still so much opportunity to leverage automation. Or if you're in certain industries, the robotics, we see a lot of that in manufacturing, of course. But some of the things that we don't always look at is the experience, the employee experience, in this case, developer experience, because if our employees are happier and they feel that what they're doing is contributing to the business and they see it more directly tied, I mean, they know it instinctually, but if they see like, hey, I just put this new architecture in place, and look, our main system is able to take in 50% more customers at lower cost. There's a sense of worth and a sense of value there that we really benefit from as an organization, obviously as a society as well. But it's important that we leverage that and really provide that as an opportunity to retain great employees rather than have them go elsewhere. So I touched on modernization. This is where we'll kind of wrap up this discussion today. I mentioned automation on several occasions. So you look at where these investments are happening, right? The adoption of automation is still, it's moved a long way, right? But there's still a long way to go. But you look at some of the areas that these organizations that we surveyed are looking to invest in. Accelerating the delivery of IT, so it's enabling the business to be more agile and nimble, right? It's ensuring consistency, reliability, and quality. So you want the customer experience to not be haphazard. You want them to return to your site, the shopping site, or continue doing business with you. If it's not reliable, they're going to leave. There's plenty of other opportunities. And then looking inward, reducing the complexity of infrastructure management, because we spend so much time, and time is money, just trying to manage our own environment. And if we can simplify this using some automation, it really just makes our whole lives easier. It allows us to address the delivery of services. It allows us to address the reliability and quality. It improves the employee experience, as I mentioned. So again, all around, great things, and we're seeing that with our hardware infrastructure decision makers that we speak to. So one of the last elements that I kind of pulled out from our commission study, again, around the modernization, when we look at what they're doing to accelerate time to market, accelerating their ability to deliver business, to deliver products and services to their organization. So, modernizing business applications. Again, think about it as an individual, not as a technologist, not as an employee of your organization, but just as Joe user. When you go home at night and you're using these systems, we see it. We see some of these systems that are just like so archaic, and how they flow and how they interact. So as enterprises, we need to modernize those applications. We need to leverage these technologies to deliver the new digital capabilities, because again, our users are expecting that, our customers are expecting that, and again, frankly, our employees are expecting that, even internally. When you think about that, we don't shut ourselves off from what we're experiencing as an individual to then when we come in-house. So we want those things as well in-house. We have to start using, like I said, the data science piece for predictive capabilities, because again, things are moving way too fast. And you look at these last two, the adaptiveness to build an adaptive enterprise. Again, I talked about, on several occasions now, how nimble an organization needs to be, because guess what, their peers are going to be. So you need to be able to move on a dime and say, okay, we need to change direction, and we need to predict what our customers are doing. So anticipate what they're doing and where they're going, so that we can say, hey, are our systems architected in a way that we can tweak this way, and we can pitch that way, and we can pivot this way when our customers change, because our customers are constantly changing. Can we lead that charge? And a lot of that comes about, I mentioned the term high performance IT. When you look at an IT organization, it has to be high performing, right? It has to have a high performance concept. And one of the big things that that the IT organization has to have, it'll have a dominant style. So if you look at this 2x2, there's 4 different quadrants, but the organization for a period of time says, hey, we've spent so much money in putting our technologies in place. We really need to kind of squeeze things out. We need to optimize things for our business outcomes. We need to be able to scale much better. So our dominant style is going to be amplify. We're going to really make sure that everything we do across our lines of business, across our regions, is going to help us amplify our capabilities. When you take a step back, then that's your dominant style as an IT organization. But then when you take a step back, you may look at a certain division and say, hey, we aren't very stable right now. So in order for us to be amplifying our capabilities, I need to enable certain things. I need to change the resiliency. We need to stabilize certain things. So I'm going to be really more in an enabling state of mind for the next 6 months to really put in place and fix some of the foundational issues, so that we can really truly be an amplifying company. Another division might be like, hey, we haven't updated our technology, so we need to really transform. We need to get on these new emerging technologies. So the point being here, a high performance IT organization, as it says there, is a pursuit of constantly improving business results through technology. So we have this dominant style that we are pushing forward with, and then internally, each division, each organization, depending on how deep into granularity you want to go, is looking at one of these 4 and says, like, what do I need to be right now in order to hit that dominant style, to enable that dominant style for my organization? And really briefly, what that sort of looks like is it's a complex organization, right? We tend to do a lot in this, most organizations, they're in this manual phase of life, and they've been there for decades. But we need to, again, you see that term, human judgment, enhancing human judgment. We take those analytics, we move them there. Then when you get into some organizations that are a little bit more advanced, and they have SREs, they have product teams, they have platform teams, they're moving a little bit further up into that automated with a manual override. So there's a human in the middle kind of piece there. Maybe it's a little bit more advanced, and you have the full CI/CD pipelines, and it's a full automation and orchestration pathway. So when you look at that, as is on the right there, the levels of automation. You go from a rules-driven all the way up to a closed loop. And there's so much opportunity to really deliver a much more sophisticated, a much more capable organization. And more importantly, this is a long-term solution, because when you have this mindset that things are constantly changing, that you're architecting for the future, you're able to then change. You're able to say, hey, something changed in our market. The pandemic hit. Can we handle this? Can we scale? When you think about the 2x2 that I just showed you, hey, guess what? Now this division is going to go into full 100% transformation mode so that they can put these new technologies in place so that we can scale. This other one is going to go into amplify because they did this already last year and they can really scale up right now on a dime. They have those capabilities in place. So with all of that, I thank you so much for spending the time with me today.